You have received mail, sir.
Again, ignore it.
Are you sure? This one is from Admiral Lawrence.
Give me the summary.
The Second Soul Fleet is being deployed to the Commonwealth upon detection of IPF scouts. The Admiral is calling for preparations of the final stand.
We really don't stand a chance in hell, do we?
Last known strength of the IPF fleet dwarfs our numbers, and this does not account for experimental craft. In short, I do not believe a conventional victory is possible.
Okay. I've got some things to get in order. Start finding vantage points and plotting back roads. We're gonna need maps. The Interplanetary War began not with a declaration of conflict, but with the assassination of the Mars ambassador, which was proven to be carried out by corporations. Following the assassination, Mars, Titan, and Europa ceased all trade with the corporations, and upon learning they were responsible for the plot, the corporations were forced off their worlds. In turn, though, the corporations returned with warships, ignoring Earth's nations' calls for diplomacy. Naturally, events only escalated. On May 25th, 2144, the destroyer Montfort fired upon a vessel leaving Mars, which had been taking supplies the corporations claimed as theirs. Upon the transport claiming independence from Earth, the Montfort opened fire. The nearest defense station then fired on the destroyer, attempting to prevent the main transport from being taken. The Montfort fired a nuclear payload, and the station did the same. Both were destroyed, and the crew of the transport were killed in the crossfire. A week later, the Colonial Unification Front was formed, calling for war against Earth's governments for not reining in their businesses. Recognizing what they were being dragged into, Earth's government seized all corporate warships, and the companies were shut down entirely. A separate entity was created above the national level to command this fleet. This entity was simply named the Sole Defense Fleet. A little-known fact about the war is that despite how pivotal it was in human history, less than 12 battles were fought in its 4-year duration. Wars fought over such distances, of course, are expensive. You have to deal with mining resources, you have to fuel craft, you have to assemble ships, and then you have to fabricate the parts. These cannot be accomplished like they can during a grounded conflict. By that final year, both sides were desperate to win, as whoever had the last ship was the one with all the power. In a last-ditch effort, both launched their last ships at each other's homes, leaving a select few ships to defend. At Mars, the SDF failed in achieving orbital superiority, but they succeeded in ensuring the defensive fleet was inoperable, and had even taken the controversial action of launching a number of tactical nukes at the surface, which eliminated the CUF's ability to continue fueling their war effort. Earth was another matter. The CUF attacked with 2 battleships they had kept in reserve and a handful of frigates. The combination of speed and brute force proved difficult for the 2 destroyers and 3 cruisers the SDF had. In the end, victory was only attained with the sacrifice of 2 of the cruisers in ramming the battleships. Both SDF destroyers were lost taking on the frigates. 2 cruisers remained at the end. The SDF had the Circumstance, and the CUF had the Buccaneer. The Buccaneer had been low on oxygen, and its captain was nowhere close to the right state of mind upon arriving at Earth. Convinced it was the only way to win, the CUF captain fired their entire arsenal of 10 megaton torpedoes at Earth, targeting as many national capitals as they possibly could. The Circumstance halted all attempts at destroying the vessel and instead focused on intercepting as many of the nuclear weapons as possible with its missiles and railguns. Of the 29 nukes launched at the surface, 11 made it through, and then the following national capitals were then lost: Canberra, Singapore, Beijing, New Delhi, Cairo, Warsaw, Brasilia, Panama City, Mexico City, Washington, D.C., and Ottawa. The Buccaneer then attempted to use itself as a bomb as it made its way down into the atmosphere. The Circumstance pursued it and was able to down it over the Pacific Ocean as both ships were entering the atmosphere. Unfortunately, the Circumstance was unable to push back into orbit and broke apart. However, in their final moments, the crew had been able to adjust their trajectory so that they would crash somewhere in Siberia, as opposed to on the coast of Tokyo or somewhere in Moscow. There were no survivors from the crash, and there was no true victor to the war. All that remained were broken worlds struggling to survive. With various economies breaking down from the sudden devastation, there was nothing they could do to stop what followed, the Second Great Depression.